Hello, everybody. My past does not define me. We heard tonight a lot of stories about being invisible, not being seen, not being heard, being crushed, not only physically, but emotionally, physically. We've heard about being going against our own values for the love of somebody else. I think inside of us, we all have a little bit of pain, and some of us more than others. Even tonight, as I was coming down here, walking down the street, I saw a man sitting on the street. He had a long hair and a long gray beard. He was bundled up in his sleeping bag. He had a cigarette hanging from his mouth. And he looked cold, and he was talking away. He looked actually quite happy in his little world. And I couldn't help but think, that could be me. When we look at people, we have sometimes an instant judgment that we're not even aware of. Like, oh, he's homeless. Oh, he's a bum. Maybe he's a drunk. And we're not even aware that we say these things and think these things about people around us. And there's so many things, Paul said it tonight, that there are invisible in us. And for me, one of those things is a mental health issue, more than one. And one of the things that brought me up here is that I really need to tell my story, because it's not just my story. And there are people who cannot share the pain that they have inside, and they suffer silently. If you look around at your table right now, there's about 4 or 5 of you at a table. Statistically, 1 in 5 people will suffer mental health issues in their lifetime. So if you look around at your table, one of you right now has something going on. Maybe you've shared it, maybe you haven't. But unfortunately, there's a lot more people that haven't reported anything, and they're terrified to do so. Sometimes when I share my story, women will come up to me in tears because it touched something in them or gave them permission to say something for themselves. Not that my boss will fire me, not that I'm broken, not that I don't matter, because everybody does matter. And it starts out, as Shannon said, when we're little, we're full of joy and playfulness. Everything is about our world of curiosity. Somehow, as we get older, that gets taken away a little bit. Don't do this. You can't do that. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're too weak. You're too strong. You're too big. You're too small. No wonder we get confused. What can we do with all that as little children? So as we go along in our lives, we get broken down a little bit more. Sometimes we forget who we are. And sometimes we do, as it was said here tonight, we numb ourselves with alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling or coffee or shopping. One of my mentors, Dr. Gabor Mate, says he's addicted to buying classical music CDs. I thought that was a pretty cool addiction. I'd like to trade that one. I too have suffered from addiction. Alcohol was a substance that allowed me to escape my pain, just as what was said was here tonight. The problem that I was trying to escape was me, and everywhere I went, there I was. And it got harder and harder to escape, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And I tried to get rid of myself. It didn't work, because every time I turned around, there I was again. So not that long ago, I found myself in a hospital room in Langley. And the first thing that went through my head when I woke up is, damn, I failed again. I can't even get this fatal plan to work. And I was devastated. I had tubes coming in and out of my body. I had taken so many sleeping pills and drank so much wine that I couldn't even believe that I could see people in front of me, let alone feel what was going on in my body. And my next thing was, well, now what? Now I have to go home. Now, unlike, living on the street or having a tough, hard life, I have a pretty good life. I have a wonderful husband who's in the audience here tonight. His son and daughter-in-law are beside us. I have a great home. We take care of my in-laws. I'm pretty healthy. What the hell? But going home to that, to me, was terrifying. Because I'm letting everybody down. They would be better off without me. This is how I talk to myself. when I did go home, that's not what I got. They called a family meeting, and my daughter came up from Victoria. And they sat around. I'm sitting there shivering and just waiting for the ball to crash and someone to tell me, you have to leave, or we're going to put you on the psych ward, or you need to do a lot of work before you can be part of this family again. Instead, what I got was love, compassion, understanding, even though they had no idea what I was going through. Mental health issues can create havoc in our lives. It can start out like it did with me, with being super shy and deciding, discover alcohol when I'm 16. All of a sudden, I don't feel quite so shy. That went on for quite a few years. No problem. Alcoholism in my family, no problem. Doesn't affect me. Sexual abuse in my family, yes, did affect me. We don't need to go there. Dealt with that before. Abandonment issues, still, my husband can attest. I sometimes go into those. A lot of these things are learned behaviors, and we deal with them in different ways. When the pain gets so bad inside, and as Paul was talking about with his accident, that's what it feels like to be in emotional pain. That's what the PTSD feels like. That's what panic attack feels like. An elephant is standing on your throat and you can't breathe. And yet the only elephant there is yourself. So when I have these mental health issues, depression, anxiety, panics, it goes on and on over the years. This time in the hospital was my actual third attempt at taking my own life. I thought, geez, my father got it right when he did it years ago. But he had a gun. It's not funny, but I have to make light of it so I can tell you the piece without going into a bunch of craziness. When I was given a diagnosis, and I hate the word, just like mental illness, it's just awful. When I was diagnosed with a term called borderline personality disorder, not full-blown, one part of me laughed and thought, great, I'm not crazy after all, or at least if I am, there's a name for it. And the second later was, oh my God, I will be stigmatized for the rest of my life. I really didn't know what to do. And then I thought, well, there's two choices. I can either let it take me down, or I can stand up and be the voice. Learn about this as much as I can. Help as many people as I can. Share my story. 10 minutes, can't really share a whole lot, but you're getting the gist of it. My whole point is that when we stand up like we are today and share our stories, some of them are very sad, some of them are very happy, some of them are in between, things that we don't talk about. Sex is something we don't talk about, especially if it's injured us. Relationships in certain ways, or staying when you're in an abusive relationship. All of these things weigh on our hearts. I made a commitment to myself to never stuff my feelings again. Man, that was a tough commitment. Because now when it bubbles up, I know better. If I don't deal with what's there and learn these new tools and skills that I now have, I know where I'm going to end up. And one of these days, I won't get away so lucky. I will succeed in my plan. So what I do now is I share my story, especially with women, and I've worked a lot with children, to express who they really are. If they're angry, to say so. Don't cover your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to get angry. I'm learning about that one. And when we do, we allow others to do the same. So today I stand up here proud. I've worn all these masks. I've been on the bottom. 3 times rock bottom is enough for me, so I think I'll stand up. And this time I refuse to get kicked back down by my own boot. And just take in the love and support that I have. Share my story. Hear others' story. It just draws on the fact that we really are connected. And as much as we have our little tools in front of us with our phones and our computers and all that great technology we have, something that we are missing is this connection with each other. And when we do connect through story, something magical happens. We get permission to be ourselves. We get permission to be funny, to be sexy, to be strong. All those things that we hide down. We don't want to be too this or too that. I don't want to be too big or too small. It's really crazy making when you think about it. We're all perfect in our imperfection. And when we embrace that, we shine our light for everybody. When my light shines, it gives you permission to shine yours, or whatever that is for you. When you pass it on, somebody else does. And that's what makes this world a great place. We focus on this, on loving each other, on seeing us for who we really are. Like Winston said about noticing that person and realizing that how important it is for them to be noticed. They didn't want the money. They just want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. I think we all have that in common. And all it takes sometimes is a smile, or a hug, or a story. Sometimes a kick in the butt. My husband can attest to that. Can't do it on my own sometimes. But I'll keep getting up, and I'll keep showing up. And I encourage you to do the same. And thanks for listening to my story.
Thank you. Wendy Foster, everyone.